Let's talk about corn, the different varieties that you could be planting this spring. Now, corn is a wonderful thing to be growing in your garden because you get those fresh, sweet corn cobs in the fall or midsummer, depending on where you are. But for us, it's in the fall, if we're lucky. You could also be growing Flint corn or flour corn or parching corn. There's lots of different varieties of corn that you could be growing. There's something for everyone. And there's pretty much something for every climate zone that you live in too. So let's talk a little bit about that. Now, I live in Alberta, Zone 3, if we're lucky, and I've tried a few different corns over the years. So let's talk a little bit about the different kinds. There are flints, flowers, and dents. And I'm going to take some of this information from this book called The Resilient Gardener, Food Production and Self-Reliance in Uncertain Times by Carol Depp. She has done a lot of stuff, and I also really like this book called Landrace Gardening by Joseph Lofthouse. And this is all about seed saving and developing your own varieties that are really specific to your growing conditions. Great, great book. And really something that, that I've started working towards because I want something that grows really well for me. Okay. So the different kinds of corn. So flour corns are used for grinding. Parching corn is also used in that, but it can be used as flouring or parching. And parching is like dry frying it in a pan, and they pop a little bit, but not really pop open like a popcorn. And the flint corns, they could be, that's your sweet corn, but it can also be the really hard, glassy looking things. And those are more for your wet things like polenta, cornmeal. Yeah, cornmeal applications. And then there's dent, which is a hybridized and stabilized cross between the flour corns and the flint types. And this author, Carol Depp, says she doesn't really like them because they're not really great for either of the applications. Okay, now the one thing that you should know is that flour corns generally take hotter seasons, longer seasons to develop as compared to the flint types. So we're just going to talk about that a little bit. Now, like I said, Alberta, Zone 3. I have grown a parching corn, and it worked for me. So this is a purple parching corn, and I grew this in 2013. And I did plant a few of these last year just to see how they're doing, and yes, they still germinated. I'll try and, I don't know if I can do this. Nope, I can't. But it's a really pretty color purple. And then 2023, this is Painted Mountain and a Ruby Cascade. So I think I had both of these growing at the same time, and they probably would have cross-pollinated. So that's why I've got both things in there. So they can grow, and yes, I have used them for cornbread and cornmeal. So that also went into some tortillas, and this has been made into tortillas, the purple stuff, the purple parching corn. And then a Ruby Cascade. I've also done that one. So it is possible to grow these flour corns and different things up here. You just have to be looking for the right one. Now, the one thing that I haven't been able to to grow is something like a hominy corn. And I know it's not a separate thing. It's just that the hominy usually is really big kernels, and we don't have a long enough season here. So to think about trying to nixtamalize these corns, and with hominy, you actually rub off the little skin that comes off as it's soaked and cooked. That's not going to happen with these small little kernels. So yeah, I'm not sure about nixtamalization with these smaller varieties. I'd have to do more research on that. But that is an important thing to consider if you are really relying on corn, is to nixtamalize your kernels, because that allows the B vitamins to be absorbed by our bodies. And if we don't have those B vitamins, we can get pellagra, which is a very serious disease. It's a vitamin nutritional deficiency, and it can lead to skin issues, mental issues, and death. And there's probably more issues in there, because obviously it leads to physical issues that would lead to death. Okay, so you can grow these flour corns and grinding corns, or you can go for the sweet corn. The flour corns will store really, really well. So that's one thing. The sweet corn, you have to process it in some way to store it. Usually you would have to, for me, I like to blanch it and then cut it off the cob and dehydrate it or freeze dry. And I really do prefer the freeze dried, because it's so much easier to use afterwards. Hi, did you know I wrote a cookbook? It's called Delicious, Cheap, Healthy, Whole Grains, Beans, and Lentils, Staples for Budget-Friendly Meals. In it, you'll find recipes for breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, snacks, and staples, all the good stuff. And it's available on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below. Okay, back to the video. So this is what I grew last year. I grew actually 3 different varieties. Sunny V, which is about 70, 80 days mid-season, and about 5 to 6 feet tall. And it's a sweet corn. And then I also grew Orchard Baby, which was, I believe, 60 to 65 days maturity. Excuse me, I got an itchy nose. And it grew about, I think it's 4 feet high. And then the other one was Yukon Chief sweet corn. And it is a 55 days, I'm pretty sure, and rather short, so 4 foot. And I had them in different plots, but they were fairly close, and so I'm pretty confident that they cross-pollinated. And I'm okay with that, because corn, you need to have a lot of plants. First of all, if you're growing one variety, you want to have a lot of plants if you're saving seed, like 200 or so, in order to get enough genetic diversity in that offering to keep your seed viable. If you don't have a lot of genetic diversity, your corn will have very low germination rate and reproductive rate in the following years. So for that reason, even if it's just one variety, you want to have at least like 200 cobs. So depending on your variety, if you have 1 cob per plant, you would want to have about 200 plants. Or if you have 2 cobs per plants, you may want to have 100 plants. I'm not sure. It's kind of, I haven't done a whole lot of research on that. I just know that it's around the 200 mark of things. So anyway. And if you're wanting to do a landrace variety of your own, so a mixture of different things, then you will want to have, again, about 200 specimens in order to save seed from. Now, when you're doing more than one variety, you're automatically getting genetic diversity in. So there's that. Okay. Now, out of these 3, I really like Sunny V, obviously. It gave us good cobs, but it was getting close to the season. End of season, wasn't sure if we were going to get our cobs off, but we did. But I really liked the Yukon Chief. they had, I thought, a better sized cob than the Orchard Baby. And we're talking cobs were like, well, they're smaller than a regular cob. But they made really great tasting sweet corn. So there's that. What else do we have? Okay. So for sweet corn, there's all sorts of different varieties that you can get from the store. They're easy to find. Everyone loves them. Okay, yes, Yukon Chief was 55 days. And it doesn't say how tall they got. Anyhow, moving on. Then there is popcorn varieties. Some of the ones that will grow in our area are Tom Thumb, 85 days. Japanese Hullless, 83 to 110 days. 110 days is pushing it. White Cloud. I have lots of Tom Thumb. Yeah. My son almost lives off of popcorn, so in my mind I think, I should grow popcorn. And then, but because they have to be separated, if you're going to grow more than one type, you have to separate them so far in order to keep the varieties pure, or at least not cross-pollinating for that application. So popcorn, if it is cross-pollinated with a sweet corn, it won't pop anymore. So that's why you don't want to grow them close together. And I find it difficult to commit to growing a popcorn when we really all love to eat the sweet corn, but only him really loves to eat the popcorn. And and popcorn is so easy to buy at the store too, even though I'm sure it's not the best for him. You would be better off growing your own popcorn. But, okay. And I guess that's the last thing I want to talk about, is that when you're planting seed, you also want to plant in a grid, not just one long row or two long rows. Because they are wind pollinated, you need to have a patch of them, not rows, not long singular rows or so, but a patch so that they can be cross-pollinated by the wind. And they have to be separated by a long distance between different varieties if you want to keep that type of corn true to itself. And if you're growing a landrace corn, which is your own variety that is a mixture of different varieties, you'd want to generally stay within that type. So if you're growing Flint corns and you want your own Flint variety that is specific to your growing context, then you could grow several different Flint varieties in that planting, and whatever comes up, that's what you got. If you want to focus on sweet corns, you'd plant only sweet corns in that planting so they can all cross-pollinate together, but it will still be a sweet corn. It won't be a sweet corn mixed with, say, a popcorn, and then you don't get the benefits of having a real popcorn or a real sweet corn. Hope that makes sense. I really recommend delving into some of these books and learning more about it. I think I will do a different video about landrace gardening and why it is a really cool concept that I'm going to be implementing to some degree. We'll see. I'll talk about the next one in a squash video, so watch for that coming up. Different varieties of squashes that we can be growing and why. So please tell me what kind of corn you're growing or plan to grow. If some of these ideas have triggered new thoughts in your mind, let me know what you're thinking. And please comment, like, subscribe, share, help a girl out. Thanks. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Mm-hmm.